Much to learn you still have. Here's your look at the Hot Toys. This is Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, the Yoda 6-scale collectible figure. Being a widely beloved character across the Star Wars galaxy, now Hot Toys are pleased to officially present the new Yoda 6-scale collectible figure from Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Beautifully crafted based on the appearance of Yoda in the movie, the 6-scale collectible Star Wars figure features a newly developed head sculpt with amazing likeness and fabric hair, specialized body specifically designed for the Jedi Master, finely tailored outfit, a walking cane, a pair of Force lightning effect parts that are attachable to the hands, and a lightsaber hilt that is magnetically attached to his belt. Good things come in small packages, and that statement couldn't be any more truer when we look at Jedi Master Yoda. This smaller figure is, yes, small, but there's a lot of details going on with this 6-scale release. Before we, of course, look at those details, the very first thing I do, and the same thing I do with all these reviews, is I'm going to tell you guys how tall the figure stands. Now, he looks small, but I mean, if you look at him, he's 5.8 inches in height. Truthfully, yes, small versus a regular 6-scale figure, but he's just a little smaller than a standard 6-inch plastic figure. Just let that sit in for a second. That in centimeters, however, though, works out to be the figure of Yoda standing 14.7, so a little over 14.5 centimeters tall. The next thing we'll have a look at is the display stand that comes included with the figure. We've seen this shape certainly before. While the deco along the top might be a little bit more different, this is taken from the scene in which Master Yoda fights Count Dooku. It's been printed in place, and at least it's slightly different than just having an all-black base, so there's some points should be awarded for that. On the front of the placard, we've got Star Wars with Yoda featured down below. This at one point was removable, I believe, on the older pieces. It seems like since then they've just permanently affixed these. I don't really think why you would want to remove it in the first place. The thing about the stand, though, that sort of perplexes me, not completely perplexes me, but the fact that the neck is as long as it is. Now, I get it. I understand. If you want to display Yoda in a little bit more dynamic pose than simply just putting him with a cane, sure, yeah, I get that. If you have Count Dooku, all the better. You can display him in flight, attacking Count Dooku with his lightsaber. The thing about it, though, is it does have the adjustable neck, but get a gander at how long that actually is. It's almost 2 times, almost another Yoda higher than the figure itself. You can, of course, bring the waist clip up and down. Bringing this up and down, I've noticed that the screw gets awfully loose, so I periodically have to go back and tighten it up with a screwdriver. But again, the idea is this can go a little higher, and you can have Yoda in a more action pose. And of course, this can position back and forth. The thing, though, is the thing that perplexes me, though, is why they simply just didn't give you 2 of these. I guess the short of the answer is that you simply just could pop this off. If you do want to display him standing, you obviously don't want all this extra post higher than the figure. So I guess a workaround to that is simply just detach this. Just unplug this. There you go. Just pull that right out. And you, like I said, you just got a simple display stand. Yoda in air certainly is fine, and it was cool to see in Episode 2, but I think when it comes time for me to display this little Jedi Master, I would either be displaying him probably with his cane, or I'll be likely displaying him posed with the lightsaber hilt in his hand, and in both cases, I probably don't need a neck this long for displaying the figure. I know I pretty much just answered my own conundrum with a logical, feasible answer. So again, if you just want to display him in standing pose, you don't even really need him in a stand, technically. Yoda stands perfectly fine. Anyways. Let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the figure. I want to look at this one first. He comes included with, of course, his lightsaber. Smaller than perhaps your conventional Jedi hilts. It is, of course, a much smaller beam blade as well as the actual handle. The handle can be displayed, obviously, with the fully extended out blade of the lightsaber, or you can also detach it. It just takes a little bit of twisting. There we go. Gets a little stubborn at times. You just twist that right off and you pop it out of the place. Now you can also swap it out for this swooshing effect, which again simply just plugs in place. Let me also just say too, I'm glad that Yoda doesn't have any light up options available. We just recently had a look at the Hot Toys Darth Maul, and you know how problematic that was, to have to pop the hand off, the arm off, all that stuff, just to get a light up effect that I didn't really ever feel was successful to start off with. Yoda doesn't have any of that. I mean, Yoda's experienced enough. He doesn't need batteries in his arms. But he does have the swooshing effect, if you want to go that route, minus, of course, the sound effects I just included. Or you can also detach that completely as well. And the hilt actually attaches to his belt. It's attached by magnets, and it's sort of, you almost need the force itself to figure out where exactly that goes. At one point I was putting it way too high. That didn't work. You almost feel where the magnet is. Over here it doesn't fit. It has to fit like literally right there. And when it does fit, it fits only by a small amount, just barely touching the sash in his belt. As you can see, it's magnetized though, so if you want to display Yoda, kind of neat to have him just kind of brushing the robe off slightly to the side, as he's about to, of course, pull the hilt out to fight Count Dooku. So I like the fact that he does come included with the option at least to display him with the magnet. It's not the most easiest to find, I admit that, but at least it's a place where you can display it if you don't want to have it in Yoda's hands. Speaking of things that can be held in Yoda's hand, he comes included with his trusty little cane. Small in size, yes, but a whole lot of detail that's been crafted into the surface of this faux wood. You can also see that they've added a bit of a clear coat over top of it, so it's got a bit of a reflective surface to it. He does come with a bunch of different hands suited for holding the cane, for example, like this one right here. Don't worry, we'll talk more about the hands in a second, but he does come included with that. I always like the fact that he does come included with the cane. I feel by this point, if this younger Yoda would probably be sporting more so the lightsaber in my display cabinet and less likely the cane. But again, I like the fact that he does come included with that. Speaking of other things I would not necessarily display him with, but still cool nonetheless, he comes with his 2 orbs of force effects. This harks back to when we had looked at the Emperor Palpatine, who had similar electricity shooting out, though I don't remember them being actually orbs. They were just simply just the electricity. It is really nicely done. As you can see, it's done in a ice blue translucent plastic that gets progressively clearer as it makes its journey across. The defaulted hands currently in Yoda's sockets are more than enough to attach to the orbs. You'll see that there's 3 holes, kind of looks like a bowling ball, doesn't it? And then you're just going to line those up to his fingers, push that in place. Sometimes some additional pressure is required, but you can just line them up like this, and just like I said, push them in place. I don't feel like they stay the most securely in place, mind you, but again, I'm not going to likely be displaying Yoda with them anyways. I just like the fact that he does come included with them, because they are pretty cool to look at. Then Yoda comes with some hands. Yoda comes with some feet. I made sure I was able to split those off so that they are different from one another. You'll see what I mean in a second. So, like I said, Yoda does have 6 interchangeable hands, counting, of course, the ones in the sockets of his forearms. He does also have these ones as well. Hands suitable for holding, for example, the cane. A couple of different just gripping hands. I like this one. He's got the force hand. And like I said, just another gripping hand. Sometimes, though, I find even myself, I'm guilty of doing this. We spend so much time looking at these 6-scale figures that mentally, the hands, all the interchangeable hands that we get, often just seem like throwaways. In the sense that you kind of already know which hands you're going to pick, that a lot of times these other hands are simply just relegated to the trays. Of course, right, where the accessories are housed. But get a good gander, again, I'm using the word gander. Look at the amount of detailing that they put actually into these pieces. Somebody would have actually spent the time and crafted these and painted them. And again, there's a lot amount of detail, like I said, that's added to the skin. You got those little imperfection spots sort of just flecked across the surface of the plastic. It is really neat, again, that you get all that much detailing done to, like I said, something that's probably going to spend the rest of its days sitting in a tray. It's kind of sad, isn't it, when you really think about it. Yoda also comes included with a pair of interchangeable feet. Get a good gander at these. The feet themselves, you can tell, are different from the hands. Let me show you the difference between the two. Primarily, you know, the dead giveaway of these feet is the fact that he does have a secondary, or I guess would they be a hind nail on the back of his feet, right there. See that? And the hands don't have that. They're also sculpted slightly different as well, so you can kind of know these are feet. Like I said, you get one pair of those, and then you get several pairs of hands. To show you how the feet work, basically this will be for if you want to display Yoda in a flight pose, why not? You simply just pop off the existing flat feet that are on, of course, at the bottom of the figure. Just pop that right off like that. I'll keep this one on so that you guys can see the difference between the two. Pop the replacement foot in place. Just kind of wiggle it onto the ball joint. You're good at this. Just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. And you can see there's the flat foot versus the more curled foot. Again, you can kind of use this if you want to kind of make it look like Yoda's leaping off the ground. He sort of doesn't get suspended on anything. It's not like he's sitting on a branch or a twig or anything like that. But it's nice the fact, again, you get a little curved foot, something to mix it up a bit, so you're not always just getting the straight flat footing here with Master Yoda. So finally, having a look at the figure, what a nice looking head sculpt. Not only does this mark a younger Yoda in episode 2, but it also marks my first Yoda. I sort of sat on the proverbial bench waiting for a good Yoda to arrive. Up to this point, we have gotten a couple of Yodas in the past from Sideshow Collectibles. I think Yoda had even been released at one point by Hot Toys. But I kind of like this look of Yoda, even though old man talk in here, it's not the Yoda that I would have grown up with. But it definitely catches all those things that I would have liked from Yoda, with perhaps a little bit of extra hair to go along with that. This is, of course, one thing that I don't know how I feel about. In some ways, I'm glad that they went with this style of hair. I think when it's all said and done, it might just be chalked up to the fact that I picture more Yoda bald, but I know that's Yoda from Empire Strikes Back, and not necessarily Attack of the Clones. They literally, I mean, quite literally look like they took a cobweb from the corner of somebody's room. If you are somebody that doesn't keep their room to the nicest condition, you could probably just literally take a cobweb and stick it onto the end. Yes, I should get into marketing, but that's definitely something that it looks like when I'm looking at the top of the hair. The instructions indicate really to stay away from combing it, moving the hair too much, as you could cause damage to it, because I gotta believe that it's just been mildly glued in place. Sometimes I might get the occasional hairs coming off of it, and I'm just doing my best to kind of pick off the odd straggling hairs and not inadvertently pull the whole thing off. Again, I was jarred by first, I think, looking at the fact that it just, you know, it looked a little too off-putting. But then I think to myself, well, what else they could have done? Sculpting it with plastic, I think, is a real no-no here. Rooted hair definitely was the smartest way to go. And I think overall it just looks good, but I think I'm just more used to Yoda being bald because, get a gander at this guy over here, I'm having old man talk. As for the face sculpt, though, it couldn't have been any bit better for Yoda. You can see the wrinkles there, the more olive-colored green skin. I'm also somebody that prefers Yoda CG, though in the original Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I would have preferred more obviously the puppet Yoda, but it looked off when I first saw it in Episode 1. Of course, they re-released Episode 1 with, I believe, a CG Yoda by that point, and it looked a little bit more natural. Something about the Yoda in Episode 1 as a puppet looked a little too strange for my liking. But everything, like I said about Yoda, really works well on this guy. Even if you move the collar out of the way, you can really see the amount of detail, the amount of paint, the amount of care that Hot Toys put into their piece. Even the closest of looks. Too close? Not enough. Still even closer. You can see even there's spots right above his lip. Little freckles of paint that somebody would have gone in there and hand done, because generally these are all hand painted head sculpts. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better looking Yoda. He really turned out very nice here. Of course, the review doesn't just simply start and stop with the head sculpt. We got to look at the rest of the figure as well. Yoda is dressed in his very familiar attire consisting of a Jedi robe. And then he also does have this two-piece suit underneath, which is essentially like a longer sleeved top, which I think actually even works into a one-piece with simply just a dividing sash belt in the middle. His little tiny, get a gander at these adorable little tiny Yoda feet stick out from the cuffs, as well as his larger Yoda hands sticking out from the sleeves. Speaking of sleeves, I'm not really sure what this is specifically. I took this out of the packaging and noticed this little extra piece of metal, which I could only best describe as it looks like a staple. I'm not sure what that is there for, because there is no wire frame in the sleeve. There is a wire frame in his jacket, the front section of his robe, but I don't get why specifically this is here. I think I'm just going to think, if anything, write it off as a factory defect. Somebody put something on the end of it. It doesn't look like it's supposed to cuff into anything else. It's not supposed to obviously attach to the other end of his sleeve. I don't really know why specifically that's actually there. So I think I'm just going to try to pull and yank that out, with of course not causing damage to his robe. Spin the figure around, and he does also have the top of his cloak, which they sort of in a way have cheated. I mean, in some ways it's a robe, and it does have also a frame of wire running along the top, but it doesn't actually go far enough to cover over top of his head. It's sort of indicated that it could be. I'm almost using my own Jedi mind tricks. It could be indicated that you could, in theory, lift that up and put it over top of his head, but that simply isn't the case at all. Looking at the figure's articulation, his head rotates all the way around. It's sort of weird the way they've done things, because the ball joint is obviously at the base of the neck, and without me opening this up completely for fear of damaging the costume, it does seem like the head sits on a slight angle, whereas if you look at it this way, the head tilts forward this way, like this way here. I can't tilt it any further back than what it is, so I got to feel like it's the way that the ball joints sat on the torso. Like I said, sitting on an angle more than anything else. So the head does move up and down, left and right, and you can rotate it all the way around. As you're doing this, I would just stress, be a little careful, stay away from the cobweb hair. You don't want to cause damage to that. He does have an upper torso ball joint, but you really can't do anything with it. He's smaller, but he's also got a whole lot of fabric filling in and sort of occupying the space where a joint should actually be. Like I said, you really can't do anything to it. The arms, however, though, hinge out at about a 90-degree angle. You can go forward, you can go back with them. He has a swivel at the bicep. Basically all the same stuff that a regular 6-scale figure would possess, Yoda also possesses the exact same. He does have also what seems almost like a double hinge, a double ball joint in the elbow, and he does have rotations in the hand. Yoda can almost do a dab. Is that what they call it? I'm so old. The legs do split out, not much though. That's about as far out as you can really go with them. Forward and back on the legs, a swivel on the top cut of the thigh, double hinge, single hinge I should say, got ahead of myself, on the knee. And then he has quite a sufficient amount of ankle pivots. You can move that up and down, and you can rotate the little tiny Yoda feet all the way around. When it comes to collecting and displaying my 6-scale figures of Star Wars characters, I don't consider myself that much of a Star Wars snob. What I mean by that is simply just because I grew up watching the original, if you ask me, superior trilogy of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, does not necessarily mean that my collection reflects that. Heck, if you were to look at one of the shelves in my detolfs, you would see a Rey, along with the Kylo Ren from Force Awakens, along with Attack of the Clones Jango Fett. As I said, though, I'm not specific to one time frame, and when it comes to displaying them as well, it really just boils down to the space that I have available. Even though some would say that's blasphemy that you would put two different time frames of characters and you would put them on the same shelf. As I said, I don't have a whole lot of space to work with. Yoda gets a little bit more difficult, though, because we have gotten ourselves 6-scale figures of Master Yoda from both the original trilogy as well as the prequel trilogy that we're looking at right here with Attack of the Clones. Now, for me, I would probably have wanted to pick up a Yoda from the original Empire Strikes Back. Until I'm wowed by one gets released by Hot Toys, this is going to be the definitive Yoda that I'm going to put on display. He's a little bit younger, yes, a little bit more agile, and he's shooting electricity from his fingers, something that older Yoda wasn't doing. I guess after all, he didn't want to look like he was bragging in front of Luke Skywalker. So I like the look of this Yoda very much, even though this isn't going to be the way I'm going to display him with the electricity shooting out from his fingers, because I don't think the orbs stay in his fingers well enough. Knock on wood, they actually stay in place for the rest of this final looks. But this is definitely going to be the Yoda I'm going to have in my collection. That has also been the case with Obi-Wan Kenobi. We did have a look at Obi-Wan Kenobi from Episode 3. So again, It's not necessarily specific to one time frame of the Star Wars universe. If I just like the look of the character, heck yeah, I'm going to add this one to my collection, as I did here with the Attack of the Clones Yoda. Overall, a neat looking figure. The display stand is sized about the same as what you would normally get with 6-scale figures. The adjustable neck on the back is fine and good for displaying him in flight, but I think for my displaying of Yoda, I'm going to take that adjustable neck off completely, like I'm doing here in Final Looks, and just display him without it. Whether I'll display him with the electricity is probably going to be slim to none. I'll more likely just display him with his fully extended blade of his lightsaber, ready again to battle Count Dooku. Again, a really neat looking figure. I really like this one a lot. And until I get a good looking Yoda from Empire Strikes Back, this is going to be the definitive Yoda in my display cabinet. What do you guys think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of the Hot Toys Attack of the Clones Master Yoda with electricity orbs coming out from his hands. How cool is that? Now, I did pick up this one over at Alter Ego Comics. If you guys are in the market of picking up 6-scale figures for yourself, Alter Ego Comics is a good stop by to go pick up your 6-scale treatments because they offer double boxing. It seems small when you think about it, but it's something that means a big deal when it comes to shipping things to your house or your post office or your mailbox, wherever you get your mail delivered to. Double boxing can mean the difference between a wet mailer box that normally 6-scale figures are shipped inside or a dry box. Having had wet boxes in the past, I can certainly most definitely tell you that having a dry box and something shipped in a double box comes in handy. And as I said, Alter Ego Comics provides that. They have great customer service. And again, if you are in the market of picking up 6-scale figures right now for your collection, you can use the coupon code SPOT15. Save yourself $15 off your minimum purchase of $150 or more. There's one coupon code per household. Today, like I said, we were having a look at the Hot Toys Attack of the Clones Jedi Master Yoda. Looking so cool. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. If you are new to this channel, make sure you hit that bell notification. And if you are new to this channel, keep your peepers peeled because there's going to be a whole lot of videos coming your way. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.